You can take a flower, roll it up and make it fine. Sprinkle it with knowledge and a little bit of time. Cover it with headlines and a sweet euphoria too. Cannabis man, can. Who can take a story and make it feel so grand? Spread the word around about the wonders of this land. Mix it all with laughter and a sprinkle of insight. Cannabis man flies. Ooh, cannabis man, spreading news and joy across the land. Diving deep into the glowing green. Cannabis man, we're all king. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Welcome into another episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Thank you so much for clicking on the show. I'm your host, Don Kleppen. And if it's your first time here, welcome. This is a show where we're taking a journalistic look at all things cannabis, whether you live in the United States, one of those states that has gone legal, recreationally, or medically, or another country around the world. More and more of those have been changing their minds about the potential quality of life benefits that cannabis offers. Most recently, those include Germany, Ukraine, and Thailand has kind of been flip-flopping a little bit. I've talked about that on the show quite a bit. And I love bringing conversations to you along with chronicling news stories and giving you my perspective as somebody who has been a cannabis user of nearly 20 years, more than half my life, and also someone who's a broadcaster in Chicago who does news on the radio and traffic. That's what kind of led me to starting this podcast and also wanting to do my own small part to ending the stigma that still surrounds cannabis to this day. And I love bringing conversations with people in the cannabis space to you, if those are entrepreneurs who have started some new cannabis businesses or create products that we all get to try now in legal spots, or doctors or researchers who are looking into various questions that we still have about the cannabis plant. As much as we do know, there are still lots of things to be discovered, and it's an exciting time for that. I also will speak occasionally with policy leaders, government leaders who have been elected or appointed to lead these new cannabis departments, and they're responsible for creating the foundation of legal cannabis framework that is going to be the future of cannabis laws as we move into this legal cannabis realm. All very exciting, and I have just such an interview for you today. I'm speaking with somebody who I've talked with on the show before, and they were a big part of forming the original Cannabis Cup, which ranks different cannabis products. Well, he has started a new venture, and there's a competition coming up right here in Illinois. You can get your judging kits starting this weekend, full of great cannabis products, the best that the state has to offer. And I'm going to tell you where you can find those, how you can get them, and all the details you need to know about that competition. If you haven't already, do me a favor and leave a rating or a review for this show. However you're listening to this, if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, there's a function in there to like, subscribe, and leave a rating. If it's 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever you think of the show, rate and leave a review if you can. Really helps me out when you do that. And you can support the show by clicking on that Support the Show link in the description notes. That'll take you to the Patreon page, and you can become a patron there. Subscribe through that website. And of course, follow the show on social media at C-Man Podcast on X and Instagram, and it's the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page and YouTube channels. I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics at all. I've been really having them on the TV ever since they started. I'm not one who normally gets too into these, but I've got a family member who is actually on the men's U.S. volleyball team, Jeff Gendrick, a cousin on my mom's side, and it's been really exciting to not just have the volleyball on, but all all the different events that they've got going. I've seen some really cool stuff come out of it. The opening ceremony was really enjoyable. These characters that have been doing the shootings, as well as, of course, the gymnastics and swimming, the typical exciting events. But I was on with Lou Manfredini this Saturday morning, as I always am Saturdays, WGN Radio from 6 to 10, House Smarts, and I was mentioning how I felt like this year the torch, the Olympic torch, looked a little like a joint. And maybe that's just me because I'm, cannabis is always on my mind and, I love it and have for a while. Or maybe it was because Snoop Dogg was carrying it for a portion of it. And, I feel like in the brain it's hard to divorce Snoop from cannabis as well. So I'm not sure if you felt that way as well, but I really was looking at that torch thinking, hey, why don't you pass that torch over here, man? I could use that right now. But I also found myself thinking, when are we going to have a global cannabis competition? Obviously, as this prohibition, this patchwork legal framework that's going on, some countries have it legal, others don't. There would need to be kind of a global agreement to end the cannabis prohibition before that happens. But man, it feels like, to me, maybe that's not as far off as it once seemed to be. At one point, I mean, it's crazy to me still to think that we live in this landscape where legal cannabis has freedom in all these different states and countries of the world. It's maybe not so ridiculous to suggest that one day there will be a global cannabis competition, a way to kind of rank up the best flower makers, the best edibles, gummies, or beverages, the best concentrates. And it could travel around every other year the way the Olympics do. It could pop up in Germany this year. It could come to Chicago another year. Budfest, or the Canna-lympics. Maybe there's something there. But either way, I've really just been enjoying the Olympics. I think all of us enjoy a distraction every now and again. It's been very entertaining, and there's still a few days left of the Olympics. So if you haven't checked them out, avail yourself of those because it's been cool. They're on NBC as well as the Peacock app, streaming on the cock, as we like to say in my house. I do anyway. I'm not sure if anybody else likes to say that, but I kind of enjoy saying it that way when something is on NBC's streaming app. Anyway, I've got a lot more to get to on this episode. I've got some products to tell you about, some news stories, as well as events coming up, and that great interview with my friend Mark Kazinec of Best in Grass to talk about the competition here in Illinois kicking off this weekend. All that and more coming up right now on this episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast.
This is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Cannabis Broadcast.
Alrighty, here we are, and let's kick it off with the News Joint Wrap. This is a wrap-up of news stories and events related to cannabis in and around Illinois, all brought to you by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. You can think of it like I do, as the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. And let's start with a news story. MCAB, the Medical Cannabis Advisory Board, is awaiting a chair appointment for a final decision on recommended conditions. You may remember that I talked about this on a recent episode. MCAB in May was considering 4 new recommended conditions to add to the list of qualifying conditions for Illinois patients under the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis program. Basically, they want to add 4 conditions to the list of qualifying conditions that could get you a medical card. But that meeting in May ended before they could really get a hold, or talk anyway, about all 4 of those conditions. And now, as Jason Brown notes at IllinoisNewsJoint.com, MCAB MCAB, those recommendations have been postponed, and they actually postponed the full July board meeting until the office of the governor appoints a chair and co-chair to the board. Now, in case you didn't hear that recent episode, I'll go through these 4 new conditions being considered. MCAB has voted to recommend the 4 new conditions, including endometriosis, female orgasmic disorder, ovarian cyst, and uterine fibroid. Separate votes for a qualifying term to the condition also was recommended for painful ovarian cyst and painful uterine fibroid. The 4 recommended conditions have been forwarded to the IDPH Director's Office for final decision. They're awaiting that appointment of an MCAB chair and co-chair before they'll pick up this next board meeting and discuss whether or not to add these 4 conditions. Neither, as Jason notes, an appointment date nor a date for the next MCAB meeting has yet been set. Public Information Officer Jim Leach is quoted in the article as saying, "The governor's office is working to finalize the appointment of a chair and co-chair for the board, and we're working to schedule its next meeting," end quote. Jason has some more details about the last discussions on these disorders, and I will link this article below in the description notes if you want to find out more. And let's move on to an exciting event coming up on Saturday, August 10th. I talked about it last week, but I'll mention it again. The Enliven Edibles Popcorn Launch Party is rolling on Saturday the 10th. This will run from 7 to 10 p.m. at the High Harbor Cannabis Lounge and Events Center on 1321 North Park Road in West Peoria. The event is set to show an outdoor movie, launch Enliven's new infused popcorn line, and more. You can buy tickets in this article at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Some details about the party include popcorn tasting of that infused product from Enliven Edibles, vendors, food trucks, and the outdoor showing of the movie Pineapple Express. Man, I mentioned last episode that is probably my top stoner movie because it came out when I was, I believe, just after high school, and that combo of Seth Rogen and James Franco before that duo kind of broke apart there was something special, and I think Pineapple Express was really at the peak of their work together. That showing of the movie will begin at dusk, and Enliven offers 2 flavors of popcorn, cheese and caramel. And of course, as they do at Garrett's, they have a bag with the cheese and caramel mixed together called Windy City Mix. All 3 flavors currently on sale at dispensaries around the state. And of course, you can always find great reviews of new products, including some recent ones like Fruit Plunge Sugar-Free Gummies by Days Off and Sweet and Powder by Sweet Buzz. And Jason also highlights some different dispensaries, and a recent one of those was Verilife, North Aurora, as well as more details about the stories and events that I just brought up and plenty more, talking cannabis in and around Illinois. All of that for you at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Moving on, I'd like to talk about my product of the week. I like to take this segment, I like to take the opportunity to kind of highlight whether it's a strain of flower I've been smoking or some edibles like gummies or some beverages that I've been enjoying, to kind of just tell you about them, give you my review of what the product is like. And I've been talking lately about some products from Canna.
We'll be right back.
You know, it really is amazing living in a state where cannabis has been legalized, or a country. It's just really cool still to me to be able to go to a dispensary and buy different products. But what's even more amazing than that is growing your own cannabis at home. And if you're able to do that where you are, but maybe the prospect is a little intimidating. Maybe you've never grown anything by yourself before at home. Maybe you don't have the equipment. Maybe you don't even know where to start. Well, if the idea is appealing to you and you've thought about starting a home grow, allow me to recommend my friends at Bloom's Brothers Hydro. These guys are the best. They know exactly how to get you started or how to improve your grow operation. Wherever you are in your journey, they can help you, and they have the products you need to get this done. They've got lines in stock from Horticulture Lighting Group, Nectar for the Gods, Green Grow, Fox Farm, Royal Gold Soils, and more. And hey, maybe growing cannabis is old hat for you at this point. Maybe you've been doing it for a while, you know all you need to know about it, but maybe you've been looking to expand your garden and add a fungal element to it. You know, cannabis flower is great, but it doesn't go great on a pizza, unlike mushrooms. Those are delicious on a pizza. And if you've been interested in researching this prospect, adding some of that fungus to your own home grow, Bloom's Brothers Hydro has you covered there too. They've got supplies from Uncle Mike's, Southwest Shroomery, Redwood Mushroom Supply, and Dr. Mike's as well. You can find Bloom's Brothers Hydro inside the Apple House on Harding Avenue in Terre Haute, Indiana. They're open 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 11 a.m. to 5 on Sundays. For more information, follow them on Instagram at Apple House Hydro. You can email fred@theapplehouse.com or call 812-232-1495 to get all the information that you're looking for. Remember, if you're thinking about starting or expanding a home grow, check out the guys at Bloom's Brothers Hydro. I spoke with the CEO of the company a few weeks back, Cameron Clark, and you can find that episode. It's full of great information about what their priorities are when they make these products, as well as kind of what they've got their eyes set on in terms of some exciting market expansions, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Canna definitely has some really cool stuff in the works here. And they were also kind enough to send over to me some gummies as well as a vape cart. I talked about the vape cart last week, and I gushed about their energy gummies, the FX line of product gummies that they have. If you go to Canna's website, cannabliss.com, you'll see that they have nano gummies, which are fast-acting, and they have these FX gummies, which are meant to elicit certain effects. And the first ones I talked about were their energy gummies, which I found worked very, very well. I want to talk to you today about some other of their FX gummies. These are the fast-acting nano indica gummies. The flavor is listed as galactic grape. Each of these nano gummy packages has 100 milligrams of THC. It's 10 milligrams per gummy, which, if you follow the math, obviously that makes 10 gummies per package. These Indica Galactic Grape gummies come in a purple package. If you head to that site, Canna, K-A-N-H-A bliss.com, you can see these packages. I think they do a good job of coloring them. These definitely stand out on a shelf. And checking out the nutrition label, I want to give credit to Canna because they put a QR code here, as well as pack a ton of information about these products on the back of their packages. This particular package of gummies, they've got a chart which lists exactly how many milligrams of each cannabinoid is in the gummies. For the THC total, there are just under 10 milligrams per gummy, as I said before, just under 100 for the package. And then for these Indica Galactic Grapes, there is no CBD, no CBN, or THCV, but they do have CBG. It looks like a half a milligram per gummy, and then there are 5 milligrams roughly just under that for the package at large. This pack was produced May 7th of this year. They recommend use by May 7th of 2025. The final test date was May 13th, and the package date was May 14th. Here we are in August. That's just 3 months ago. Not too bad. And if you go through and read the instructions here, all of their packages advertise that these effects, this is part of Canna's special nano formula that they have here. These are fast-acting gummies. I know that you, if you've been a long-time user, or maybe you've just done it a few times, but you've likely had an experience if you've tried edibles at all, which is you've taken the edible and then you're kind of sitting there, maybe drumming your fingers on your kneecap, wondering when the effects are going to set in. And sometimes, especially back in the day, when maybe your buddy down the block made a batch of cookies or brownies or something, sometimes those could take 40 minutes to an hour before you even felt anything. And that's when you kind of got into that risky territory of 20, 30 minutes go by, you don't feel anything, so you take another, and maybe another. And then 20 minutes later, you start to feel the first one, and you realize, oh boy, I've made a huge mistake. Well, thankfully, with these Canna packages, the 15-minute onset really kind of nips that in the bud. It's something that you really don't need to worry about because you feel these inside of 15 minutes. And I'll say, after trying all of these that they sent, every time I've taken one, the onset has been within 15 minutes, and I find that to be reliable and comforting because it kind of of eliminates that potential issue, like I said. The instructions say eat one gummy, and they let you know here the onset can start as soon as 15 minutes. Wait 60 minutes for the full effect, though, and you want to keep these gummies, like others that you might have edibles, in a cool, dry place. Avoid temperatures over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The nutrition facts include 10 servings in the package. A serving size is 4 grams. The amount per serving, calories 10, total fat 0 grams, no sodium, 3 grams of carbs, 2 grams of total sugars, which as they note are added sugars. And the ingredients are tapioca syrup, cane sugar, water, gelatin, agar locust bean gum, interesting, carnauba wax, citric acid, natural flavor, natural color, cannabis oil, and natural indica terpenes. Now, I want to get into my thoughts about this. I talked about the energy gummies, which I found to be exactly as advertised. You take them, they have, along with THC, they have THCV, which is an exciting cannabinoid. It has shown some potential for appetite suppression as well as energy boosts, and that's what I definitely felt from those. These, the Indica Galactic Grape, obviously advertising an indica feeling, and that is what I get from these. When I took it last night, just before I'm recording this, I took it August 5th. It was about 8:30 p.m. I took these after dinner. I was hanging out with my wife and my daughter Violet, and we were just watching some Star Trek Voyager, some of the Olympic events as we've been doing, and sure enough, 15 minutes later, I felt the typical onset of an indica, which for me, maybe it's different for you, but for me, indicas sort of make me feel a little more relaxed, glued to the couch. I don't really feel like moving very much. It was a nice body buzz. I've been dealing with a little lower back pain. I don't know if you've ever had any sciatic nerve flare-ups, but my wife, who was recently pregnant, she had plenty of that, and she was giving me some advice as I was kind of struggling with it last night. She showed me a little move to do on the foam roller, and that actually really did help. But what also helped was these Indica Galactic Grape gummies, because as soon as these set on, just sitting there with the pain before I took these, it was just kind of an annoyance. I couldn't get comfortable. I was trying all these different positions, trying to do stretches like I do every day, and nothing was really helping. These gummies helped a little bit with the body discomfort. The pain I was feeling in my lower right backside was subsiding just a bit, and then when I used that move on the foam roller, it pretty much set it all just fine. So I was able to get relief finally, and these gummies helped me out. I love the flavor of these. You may have guessed with the Galactic Grape that they are going for sort of that purple grape-ish flavor. When I was young, grape soda was definitely the soda of choice for me. These Indica Galactic Grape gummies, that flavor profile brings to mind for me like a Grape Crush or one of those purple soda drinks from when I was younger. It's been a long time since I've really drank any soda, but these made me think of some fun days from my past. So there was a little bit of a nostalgia hit for me. May not be that way for you. I don't know how old you are, if you ever drank grape soda, but these brought to mind some good old days from the past. Another benefit of these Indica Galactic Grape gummies is that I found that they helped me get to sleep, as indicas mostly do, which is why I kind of keep consumption of them to later in the day. I don't really like to consume indicas in the morning or the afternoon, and I haven't been doing much of that with any cannabis anyway lately, just with Violet coming and trying to get work done and stuff during the day, even during my recent month off. But at night, when I'm looking to wind down and kind of get myself, on the ramp down towards sleep, indicas are really helpful for that. That's kind of when I stick to them. And these gummies helped me do just that. I was still able to get like an hour, maybe 90 minutes of relief of the body pain and just kind of chilling energy with my wife before we went to bed. But when I did go to bed, it was a full night of 7-8 hours of sleep, no dreams that I can remember anyway, and I was comfortable enough to get up this morning and didn't really have any issues. No grogginess either. I know that's kind of a big concern of people. And that can depend on when you take, whether you ingest some edibles, whether you smoke the cannabis, depending on when that is, what hour it is, and how soon before you go to sleep, or really how soon before you're planning to wake up. That can impact the grogginess factor. And because I allowed for 7-8 hours of sleep after taking these, and I had still taken them maybe maybe an hour to 2 hours before even going down to sleep. I didn't have any issues waking up this morning, and these were just fine. If I have one issue with these Canna gummies, it is their texture. And they're very typical of a lot of cannabis gummies, but I think these actually are even a little tougher than some of the other ones. Flavor's good, effects are good, as I've said, but all of these Canna gummies, the Energy, the Indica Galactic Grape, and I'll talk about the Sativa gummies later on another episode, but these, they all kind of have the same texture, and it's tough to get away from the gelatin baseline, which a lot of these gummies, most of them, are made out of. It's hard to get away from that texture, and these in particular, if I have any problem with them, they're not very soft or indulgent, which some other gummies I've had, they are that. And it just seems like a little more of a treat, little more of a reward when the gummies are kind of softer and chewier. And that's just something that I prefer. Maybe you feel differently, and by all means, anything I talk about in this episode that you want to weigh in on, or if you want to tell me about some products that you've tried that you really enjoy, including these Canna Indica Galactic Grape gummies. If you tried them and you had a different opinion about them, scroll on down and hit that Text Cannabis Man link in the description notes and let me know what you thought. But either way, I will certainly be getting these again. I love the flavor of these Indica Galactic grapes. I love the effects of them. They're not too strong. 10 milligrams is kind of my sweet spot. It was enough to, as I said, get a little relief from that nerve pain and get me down to sleep, and it put me off to a wonderful night of sleep as well. So all the effects that I've gotten from these Indica gummies as well as the Energy ones, they're fantastic. And the taste of the citrus splash for the Energy and these Galactic grapes, love the flavoring. I would give these like an 8 out of 10 with just a slight knock for that texture. But as I said, you can find these and their other products at Canna Bliss on Instagram or cannabliss.com for the website. Check them out for yourself. Before I get into this week's interview, listener, I wanted to tell you about a product that my friend George Brewa at Dynavap sent over recently. You may have heard my conversations with George. If you haven't, I highly recommend you go and check out those episodes. I've talked with him a few times, and what he's doing at Dynavap is he's making thermal extraction cool and easy by designing these handheld vaporizers. And as long as you have a heat source, you heat up their Dynavap cap, which just kind of, as George describes it, it's like an oven versus combustion where you're just holding the lighter up to the plant and burning it. This heats up the metal, the cap around your cannabis that you've packed in there, and it creates an environment more like an oven, which, as George says, does have the effect of baking your cookies, not burning them. And I found that to be consistent, and Dynavap has a new product called the Hyperdyne. Now, I've linked this below, dynavap.com. You can click on this link, see a picture of this thing. I'm also going to share some pictures to the social media pages. But this thing from Dynavap, the Hyperdyne, is fantastic. I love it for a lot of different reasons. You've heard me gush about these Dynavap vaporizers before. I love my Woodwind, which I described as elegant. It had a natural kind of feel with the wood grain. It was darker, but of course you have the metallic cap and the mouthpiece, so it's kind of a mix of like industrial but natural, and I love those mixes. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hellboy by Guillermo del Toro, but the second one, Hellboy 2, Golden Army, there is a scene, and I'm totally going off on a tangent here, forgive me, but there's a scene where the group, Hellboy and his team, get into a city, and there's a little egg that falls into a sewer, and this forest god is like born, and it's a giant plant creature that just pops up under the streets of this city, and it grows and it kind of winds its way around these street lamps, these traffic lights, and these stores, these neon signs. And there's a big fight scene that's kind of wound up in this forest god. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because that scene is like the perfect blend of old world nature and new world modern industrial cityscape. And I think of that often because I'm just kind of a fantasy nerd and that stuff seriously gets me going. That's what I felt of the Woodwind, kind of that blend of nature and urban. This Hyperdyne, though, this is a thick boy, as some of my friends and I will sometimes say. This is what I've been calling diesel sleek. I don't know that is said anywhere. I don't really care one way or the other. That's the word combo that this makes me think of. It has a dark silver kind of color to it, and what's so unique is that it's thicker than the other Dynavap products that I've had before. It has more heft and substance, and that's kind of where the diesel comes into my mind. The Woodwind and the M7, which are two products that I've checked out before and talked about, those are more slender. And the Woodwind, as I said, was very kind of delicate and artistic. This one feels straight up industrial compared to those, but it still has some of the sleekness in the design. There are spirals in the base toward the mouthpiece. There are these indents where your fingers go to cover the air hole in order to make sure that you're inhaling through the cap and everything. There are these indents which make holding it comfortable and pleasurable. And then toward the top, where the cap is, there are these spirals around the bowl where you pack the flour. And you don't have to screw the cap on, it just comes on and off. You just pull it and push it back on there. Very easy. But this Hyperdyne has a much wider bowl, so you pack a little more flour into it than you do for the Woodwind or the M7. And I have just been enjoying the hell out of this thing for a few different reasons. Obviously, the using it is always fun. And as I talk about with George, if you hadn't heard me speak with him about this, one of the many benefits of using Dynavap, not only are you not combusting the plant and inhaling that plant matter, so it's healthier for you and it's better for the environment and all these things. You can reuse some of that flour that you bake in these Dynavap products if you like, make edibles, or if you're really desperate for a joint or a blunt, you can kind of roll the stuff up later, mix it with concentrate or something like that. I know people who do that. But another thing that George did, which I thought was brilliant, what he's been doing, it seems like to me, with every new device that they come out with, a new invention from Dynavap, he is addressing potential weak points with the previous iterations with every new product. And what they've done with this Hyperdyne is this comes in a metal tube, not the tube of the Hyperdyne itself, but like a cylindrical black tube that the Hyperdyne slides into. And then there is a silicone rubber kind of case that caps both ends of the tube and squeezes it around the outside. Now, why have this? Well, one of the issues that I myself noticed when I was using the Woodwind and the M7 was that when you're done using it, when you finished smoking, but you have heated the device in order to get your vape out of there, there's not a great place to put those in terms of bringing it back inside, or if you're smoking inside or whatever, the heat that's conducted by the blowtorch or whatever source you used to heat up your vap, that heat lingers. This is metal, so the heat sticks around a little while, and you can't necessarily comfortably stick it in your pocket after using it like that. Or sometimes, like I like to do when I'm heading outside, I'll tuck them behind my ear, and then once I heat it up and I've smoked out of it, you can't really put it back there because the metal tube is too hot. Well, with this Hyperdyne, I can now, when I'm finished with it, slide it back into this metal tube and then just cap it off with the silicone layer here, the thing that kind of stretches and caps both ends. And you can feel that heat transfer to the metal tube, but it is much less so because it's being reduced with every new surface that it touches. But the silicone, the rubber, is not as much of a conductor. So I can stick this right in my pocket right after having heated it up and inhaled from it, and it's a lot more mobile. It's a lot more transportable than the Woodwind or the M7. Now, that being said, both the Woodwind and the M7 will fit in this metal tube, as does the Hyperdyne, because that's the big daddy right there. That's the diesel sleek. That thing is thicker than the Woodwind or the M7, as I mentioned before. But if you're looking for, something to try, if you haven't tried any Dynavap products, you owe it to yourself to give these a shot. I am such a fan of the work that George and the guys at Dynavap are doing, if they just made one product like the Woodwind or the M7, they could have just continued making new generations of that. But that's not enough for them. They are innovating every single time. They are innovating every chance they get. And with every new generation of these products, they are solving problems or shoring up weaknesses with the old generation of the former products. And I just love where the future of this is headed. And I feel like the guys at Dynavap really have the right idea in terms of where they're headed with their product design. So as I mentioned, if you haven't had a chance to try any of these yet, head to Dynavap, dynavap.com, and check out some of the products they have available there. And try this thermal extraction thing. If you're somebody like me who's just been an old school stoner and not really into the vape scene, this vaporizing is different than the vape cartridges or the concentrates or the oils. It's not the same thing. It's just taking dry herb. It's taking the same flower that you would roll up into a joint or pack into a bowl or a bong, and you put it into the tip of one of these Dynavap vaporizers. Then you put the cap over that tip and you heat the cap with either a butane torch like I do, or you can use a basic lighter as well. Any heat source will work, but you end up hearing this distinctive click on the cap, and that lets you know that it has reached the optimal heating point. And myself, I like to heat it a little further beyond that so I can get some more of a cloudy smoke from it. But either way, it is a lot of fun. It's something new. And here's the real benefit. Here's the kicker. My weed lasts a lot longer when I'm consistently using Dynavap products than it does when I'm using anything else. Not just because of the burning versus vaporizing, but there's something about the way these devices work that it hits me a lot harder than when I'm just smoking bowls or smoking a bong. I would easily have to smoke through 2 or 3 bowls to feel what smoking one Dynavap capful gets me. And that is just something that I really enjoy. Listener, welcome back. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. You know, we're all in the midst still of Olympic fever. I was just watching the men's sprints right now, heading into those semifinals tomorrow, and I don't know if you're into it or not. The opening ceremony was awesome. I was talking on WGN doing news this past Saturday on House Smarts with Lou Manfredini, and I mentioned how the torch for this Olympics looked to me like a joint, and I don't know if that was just because Snoop Dogg was carrying it, or it's because that's just sort of how my brain has been conditioned to see, long cylindrical objects. But I've been loving these Olympics, and it's been such a joy always to see the world compete and the best athletes that are out there. And I'm tying this into cannabis because there is a competition happening here in Illinois, and you may remember this cannabis cup that was at one point affiliated with High Times. But the guys who put it together and who really know what they're doing in terms of the best cannabis products in Illinois, they've branched off and they're kind of handling it themselves now. And they're doing it through a company called Best in Grass. And they have some excellent relationships with a lot of the best new dispensaries, best product makers. And the judging kits for this cannabis cup are coming available this weekend from when I'm recording this, August 10th. And so I thought, who better to talk about this competition and find out how you can get involved with these sort of Illinois Olympics of cannabis products yourself here than the Chief Operating Officer, co-founder, and co-owner of Best in Grass, Mark Kazinec. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you, Don. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm in Chicago right now, and it is beautiful, so we're ready to rock and roll for this Best in Grass competition.
Yeah, man. It's very exciting. I love the name. I think Best in Grass, it's perfect for like the cannabis cup sort of, judging that you guys do year after year. I know that you just wrapped up this contest in some other states. You've done Michigan, and now you're here in Illinois. Let's start the conversation with how did Best in Grass get started, and what made you guys bring the cannabis cup into this kind of new group here?
Great question. So yeah, as you mentioned, I was the head of all cannabis cups at High Times. And to clarify, Cannabis Cup is actually a trademark term by High Times. Other competitions go by other names. So,
Gotcha.
I'll refer to it as just a simple cannabis competition where,
Okay.
all these brands across the states, state by state, different regulations, different brands, they are busting their butts to create the best products for consumers, whether it's adult users or medical users, recreational, what have you. Everybody thinks they're the best, right? We want to help award and identify the best brands. And it's not only about that, but it's also providing a way for different consumers from all walks of life, not just the, OG heady boys or growers or people who've been consuming for the past, 30 years, but also the people who are just tiptoeing into cannabis nowadays. They're finally realizing that, hey, maybe I should put away my glass of wine and have a joint. Maybe I should put away my pills and try a topical or a vape pen.
Right.
It's for anybody who is canna curious in any way, shape, or form. This is a process that allows these people to try out different products. And what we like to say is find their high, find their why. Coming from High Times, I have, 6 years under my belt of running these competitions across the states, from Alaska to Illinois and Colorado to, Michigan. A lot of states have great brands, and we love giving them the opportunity to, shine a light on them and enjoy the fruits of their labor. So now that, I have that experience and I've been able to, build those stepping stones, we wanted to do something on our own. So we wanted to take the handcuffs off and build a business of our own that we can, hopefully pass on to our kids later in life, and bring something, more unique and open to all walks of life. Because, High Times is a legacy brand, very much respected in everything that it's built. There's a lot, this industry may not be where it was without them. But I think this industry is going into a different place. And I think the vibe or the ethos, that company had is for a certain demographic. And I want to open this up to a lot more different types of demographics all across the country.
We'll be right back.
Think about this. Come with me on a mental journey for a moment. You, on Friday, August 9th, could be enjoying a delicious Native American cuisine dinner infused with cannabis, prepared by rising executive chef star, Chef Jessica Walks First of Menominee Tribe. You may have seen her on Top Chef and soon to appear on Chopped. This is happening at Molly's Joint in Tilton, Illinois. Doors open at 5 p.m. Food is served half an hour later. Live jazz and blues music will be played by Chad Crooner Brown between 5 and 8. Stoner Nat recommends allowing at least an hour for the infusions to hit, but as you know, it can take longer. And here's a kicker. Smoking will be allowed, and you can bring your own homegrown cannabis or stop by the dispensary that will be available to you at the lounge. They'll also have canned alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages available, and those are included in the cost of your ticket. And those tickets are available, by the way, at canocomedy.com/events. Right on. I think that's great. You said a lot of cool stuff there. I've loved the concept of this cannabis competition since you guys kind of started doing it. Since it's been legalized, everybody, even before it was legal, back in the old days, for those of us old fogies that remember cannabis pre-legalization, and kind of weaving through the black markets, meeting people at parties, getting new bags there, everybody always claimed to have the best stuff, whether the dealer grew it themselves or whether they had a friend who was out in the Emerald Triangle of California that they got it shipped over to them. Everybody loved to claim that theirs was the best. And so this whole notion of the competition to allow these now legal dispensaries, product makers, these people who are making this stuff, they can actually weigh their stuff against the others out there and allow us, the consumers, to kind of judge for ourselves. And we get to win by trying all these different things and deciding for ourselves and weighing in on that debate. And so, talking a little about this, as exciting as it is, this competition, this one for Illinois, is coming up this weekend, Saturday, August 10th. Am I right about that? And where can people find these dispensaries where maybe they can go get kits?
You are absolutely right. So we are in Illinois right now. We have 34 dispensaries across the state who have received product from big vendors, small vendors, cultivators, processors who, again, put their heart and soul into creating these products and submitting them into the competitions. They're literally picking their top buds, top concentrates, and putting them inside of these sample kits. So all stores across the state from, Sauget and Normal to Springfield to the Chicago greater area, Wheeling, everywhere in between. There is a dispensary for everybody, and ideally, less than an hour to 2 hour drive to get one of these judge kits. We have 28 judge kits across the entire state between 12 adult use categories and 4 medical categories.
Wow.
We always want to honor the medical patients because that is what this industry was built on, and we want to make sure that people are getting their proper medicine.
Right.
So 34 stores: Pure Leaf, GTI, Shangri-La, New Era, Lux Leaf, Viola, Village, Enlighten, Revolution Cannabis, a ton of different great retailers that, we've worked with in the past and continuing to move forward with them in the future. Bud and Rita's, Trinity, those are some of the new dispensaries that we're working with now. And we will be letting loose August 10th, where the kits ranging from flower to edibles to concentrates to vape pens will be available for the people at a really good price, discounted from the market value. We're looking, for example, at 7 different half grams of non-solvent concentrate for all the rosin dad heads out there for probably only $160 before taxes.
Wow.
When looking at dispensary websites, a half gram is going for $35
right.
per.
Right.
So that's like about $250 in market value. We're going to look at selling that for about $160 or so. We're finalizing pricing now, but everything is about creating a really good value for the consumers to where they get a nice sample platter of a bunch of different brands, some that they might have heard of and laser love, some they might have never heard of in their lives and now they're finally trying it, and also some that they might have seen on the shelves. They're like, oof, that might be a little bit out of my price range, but now we're making it a little bit more accessible for them in this judge kit. So we'll have an indica flower, sativa flower, and hybrid flower kit. We'll have a non-infused pre-roll kit and an infused pre-roll kit. Then we have a solvent concentrate kit, a non-solvent concentrates kit, a solvent vape pens kit, a non-solvent vape pens kit, and then we go into edibles, which includes a gummies kit, a non-gummies kit, a syrups and beverages kit, which is actually going to be a smallest and most cost-effective kit, probably around like $20 only.
Wow.
And then we have our medical flower, medical concentrates, medical vape pens, and medical edibles kits as well. So it all goes down this Saturday, August 10th. We encourage people to go to bestingrass.io, both on the web and on Instagram, to DM us for any questions, sign up for updates, because we're going to be dropping pricing soon, and the people who are signed up for updates will get the first notifications of, who has what kits and what the pricing is. All dispensaries are already listed online anyway. And then we get the kits out. There's a judge card inside of every single judge kit, which gives them the access code to the Best in Grass judging portal. Each kit is now having its own unique QR code, which is something new and improved that we're doing. So that, Don, if you get an indica flower kit, you can't go pass that on to Joe Schmo and he judges the same kit. It is specific to you and your own QR code. So make sure that everybody out there gets their kit, looks at that judge card, registers for their username and password so they can go into the portal, see every SKU or product within their kit, and judge over the course of 2 months on how it looks, how it tastes, how it smells, how it burns, how it feels. Comment section, which we would love for people to just become novelists and go wild with their comments. Turn on their Don Kleppen.
Yeah.
Be a reporter, be a journalist, and give us every little detailed comment about their experience.
Yeah.
And then judging will be due on October 13th, and then we will bring everybody together as a community: the cultivators, the processors, the retailers, and anybody who is fully judged. You have to judge 100% in order to get invited to the award show in late October. We're going to announce the venue and the timing shortly. And we're going to have a ball. We're going to, cocktail attire, red carpet affair, get everybody, dressed to impress.
Yeah.
And it'll be a wonderful night where we celebrate the winners and giving people the spotlight that they deserve.
Beautiful, man. That's wonderful, because there's so much to be excited about in there. You spell out kind of just how it's an opportunity for people to try products that maybe they don't. One of the, you talk about the discounted value of some of these kits. I mean, one of the biggest complaints that I often get from listeners, from people on social media, Illinois prices for cannabis items still kind of get dragged through the mud. As I preach on the show, they've been dropping with more competition, and I feel like Illinois' positioned itself well because we have high quality products here and the price point is still coming down. And I think it'll settle to a place that's a little friendlier to consumers. But the incentive for businesses to create high quality products will remain, unlike what's happened in some other states where the bottom dropped out of the market and people are getting heavily discounted stuff, but I don't think anybody would say they're satisfied with it. I feel like Illinois isn't a great place for it, but even so, it does still prevent people from trying things that they might want to. This judging opportunity, these kits, represent a really great shot for you to maybe try some things that you haven't had a chance to yet, that you've looked at, maybe if these are infused or some edible that you thought was cool, but it just was a little out of your price range, or you needed to get your flour, and so you didn't have a chance to get the other stuff. This is a great opportunity for you to get a kit and try all the stuff that maybe you haven't from some of these great makers right here in Illinois. And then, you judge. I love the QR code thing, keeping it specific, making sure that people are doing their own kits and not just kind of, I guess, shelling out the difficult part of judging to somebody else. I think that's really nice. And now you got this award show the week of October 28th, right near Halloween. I think it sounds really fun to have a red carpet affair, maybe a little costume contest, and then find out which of the best cannabis products win the cup. There's so much fun here, Mark, to be excited about. And one question I had as you were going through that, can people get multiple kits, or is it one per judge?
We get this question often, and I love it because that just means that people are enthusiastic about being judges. So here's my comments about that. Yes, people can buy multiple kits, obviously up to purchase limits. We don't want anybody buying or judging the same kit multiple times.
Sure.
So, Don, if you love your flower, you can get an indica kit and you can get a sativa kit, but we don't want you getting two sativa flower kits or two vape pen kits.
Yeah.
The same exact category. That's why we try to split it up. We have the solvent vape pen and we have the non-solvent vape pen kit so that you can, get as many vape pens as you really want. But we want to make sure that every single item is judged by a unique person so that for the brands that have put blood, sweat, and tears into this, they are getting a real unique user and consumer to judge and try their products for every single unit.
Yeah, so, that makes perfect sense.
Multiple kits. Exactly. So it's all just for an even level playing field, making sure that they're getting the most robust feedback, which we give that to them. If we have every single judge submitting scores, those brands are going to get the feedback from those judges. And we also are incentivizing the judges as well, because we understand, it's a lot of work. You're going home, you might have 10 to 20 different products and you just pay for the cannabis. So, hey, why should I judge? It's a great experience. You get your voice heard. We often will list out, the top judge comments at our award show. And I've had people so excited to hear that they got their feedback or their comments reviewed on the award show stage. Mm-hmm. But it's also us paying them. So if Susie Q buys a judge kit from the OK Cannabis Wheeling Consumption Lounge, we are going to give her a 10% credit of that judge kit value to go back to that same store and get money off of her next purchase.
Oh.
So if the kit is exactly. So it's a good way to make sure that people are fully judging and to reward them for that. So if the kit is $100, they're going to get 10% back and they can go back to that dispensary and say, hey, I was the best in class judge. I fully judged. Kaz and team should have given you my name. Yep, you're here. You get $10 off your $30 purchase. Perfect. So that's, a nice little perk for the judges to be incentivized to fully judge. And that will render a much more robust feedback report for the brands that are submitting their products.
Yeah, and dude, that makes a lot of sense because obviously you're partnering with these product makers and you're offering these kits at a discount because they're benefiting from the feedback of users, but you also don't want people to just be buying kits for the discount. You're not trying to take out of the pockets of your partners here, and people should understand. It's like, this is a great deal, but as you said, buying two flower kits of the same type, indica or sativa, whatever you like, then you're just kind of trying to take advantage of the discount, maybe more than is appropriate. And I would also say that the judging, even though it is work, come on, this has got to be the best homework that anybody's ever had to do, right? Like this assignment.
Exactly.
This is fun. I mean, I would kill to do something like this for a job and to be able to kind of just go to a dispensary that's near to you, buy one of these kits, and then over the next 2 months, when you're trying these cannabis products, what I usually do when I'm reviewing products on the show is I'll try them once for the first time and just kind of see how it hits me. Then I'll do I'll I'll write down my observations the next day. And then the next time I try them, I'll kind of write my thoughts down as I'm going. So I do it, once or twice to kind of get as many thoughts down as I can in the different categories that you mentioned in terms of, the smoke, the smell, the feel, the taste, the burn, these kinds of things for flower. And then as well as, the onset time, what your symptoms are, what you're feeling in terms of, whether you're kind of glued to your couch, if you feel a little motivated to get up and get out and do some stuff, if you feel creative, euphoric, whatever these things are, just kind of journaling and getting into the habit of writing those down. This is something that can benefit you in your life as well, being more mindful about where you are in the present moment and what things in terms of experiences or substances can affect that in a positive or negative way. And I just think that, to combine that, the working out of the mindfulness muscle along with trying new fun cannabis products at a discount that maybe you haven't before, it's a great opportunity that everybody should want to take advantage of. And I love, Kaz, that you guys are doing this now with Best in Grass and taking it to multiple states, including here in Illinois. Let's talk a little about, you mentioned something about how people, and I hear this on the show a lot, the option to turn away from alcohol or opiates or whatever if it's a medication or if it's a substance that maybe you're just not that crazy about because of the side effects. People are choosing cannabis for a lot of different reasons, and especially now that it's legal, that exploration is spreading out to other groups, other demographics who maybe never considered it before because of its prohibited status. I'm curious, you've been involved with these cannabis competitions for a few years. Have you been seeing more people come from make the decision to try cannabis products over something like alcohol, or in the case of medical users, maybe weaning themselves off opiates? Have you been hearing stories like that at the competitions?
I certainly have, and I'm even hearing it more so with our new company because, again, it is, the cannabis industry is very discerning and it can seem scary. A lot of these cannabis events, it is a certain demographic that isn't always welcoming to other people. I mean, even me, I've been in cannabis for 6-7 years, but at first I didn't feel warmly welcomed. Maybe it's because I didn't come from the Emerald Triangle or I wasn't a cannabis guy, through and through throughout my entire life. I started consuming cannabis as a young guy, but I didn't work in it. I didn't know all the intricacies of it. I didn't really know the difference of terpene profiles and, the curing process or different mediums of growing. And sometimes people will quiz you on that as you enter the industry. And if you're not hip to it, you might often seem like an outsider or what they call a Chad, or a Karen. Yeah. So, and even while I was, working at High Times, it's very legacy culture. It's very stoner bro culture. And you see that both in the publication, you see that in the events, you see that all around. And people would call me, a hipster or whatever else, just because I wore glasses and I spoke in a more eloquent way, I guess you could say.
Right.
And that cannabis isn't every part of my life, but it is a huge part of my life, and I infuse it into a lot of aspects of my life. And with Best in Grass, we are a lot more approachable. We're a lot more friendly. We have a lot of different, non-cannabis professionals coming to us being like, hey, this is actually a brand and a kind of a cool ethos that I can get on board with. You guys are cool. I've never really stepped inside of a dispensary before, but sure, you got cool, colorful bags and you're getting a bunch of different brands together that I don't even know what a rosin vape pen is, but sure, you say it's good and, you seem like somebody that I can relate with. Cool, I'll go try this out. And especially with a women crowd, we're getting a lot of women saying the same thing. Just hey, I never felt as a woman very accepted or part of, the boys club. But we've provided something to where, and maybe it's because it's my goofy face, or maybe because I was raised by a great mother and I have awesome sisters that I can relate to, women and a lot of other different types of people, whether it's, again, the stoner bros or a corporate Chad. I can get along with all of them. And I think everybody has value in this industry. And I think we should all come together because the more different types of people that are supporting this industry with their wallet, with their thoughts, with their political support, or just, word of mouth of saying, hey, you know what, I'm sick of having a Miller Lite at the end of the night. I actually tried out this product because I found it in Best in Grass and like it actually seems cool, and haven't dipped my toe into this world before, but now I am. That word of mouth goes a long way, and we're just trying to push that out. So yes, we really want to get people to consume cannabis, feel more approachable to the world of cannabis, spend more money on cannabis, and spread that word to their friends and get off of, alcohol, opioids. Not to say that, all alcohol is bad. I enjoy a delicious old fashioned here and there.
Sure.
But it definitely affects me a lot more.
Yeah.
The next day or even that night. It will often give me, or lead me to not as great decisions, or not as great, mental capacity the next day. Whereas cannabis, I can work hard, be on email and phone calls all day, get in my Google Sheets, and then I close my laptop and I can have a nice joint, and I'm ready to go the next day without a hangover or, any other negative impacts that alcohol or other substances can give you.
Yeah.
So I truly believe in the power of cannabis, and I want more people to as well.
Yeah, amen, dude. Said a lot there that really resonates with me. I mean, I just had a few beers yesterday on the golf course with my brother and one of my sisters, and my stepdad Ray, and we had a great time. But sure enough, last night I felt dried out. I felt the headache coming on already, and I pounded some water before I went to sleep. Got a good workout in this morning. But I mean, it's not easy to overstep that limitation that alcohol can kind of lay on you. I feel the exact same as you. Alcohol has its place. And sometimes, I mean, for other people, if you're into opiates or whatever, those can still have their place too. But I'm right there with you that I think cannabis is, it can offer so much to people. It's part of why I started the show, is I wanted to talk about these potential quality of life benefits. And I wanted to spread the word because there are so many people out there who never even gave it a thought because of the prohibition, because of the propaganda and the stigma that still exists around it. And the work you guys are doing, I think, is going to help a lot with kind of moving this needle forward. And on that note, I also am so on board with ending the gatekeeping that I think a lot of stoners, tend to do. For people who have been in it for a while, it's like we all have our journeys. You discover it, you find out that it's not the evil, gateway thing that we were told about in the 90s with the DARE education and stuff. You find out these things and you want to shout it from the rooftops, but the same way that people are when they find a band that's just starting out and then the band hits it big and becomes a global smash hit, and then everybody's, in the fan base, but you want to kind of gatekeep it because you're like, hey, I was there first, so screw you, man. Like you didn't put in the hours that I put in. And it's like, let's drop that attitude, because cannabis is all about welcoming. I think what I loved so much about it, the culture before it went legal, was going to a party, meeting new people, and when I found out that they were smokers, it was like we leapfrogged all this getting to know you, stuff in terms of talking, and we were immediately on a deeper level of friendship already, because I'm like, oh, you consume cannabis, so do I. Let's high five and split a joint now. I don't have to kind of do this dance around getting to know you, and that can be that way still now that it's legal. We should be opening our arms and welcoming to new people who want to join this party, rather than kind of making them feel, iffy, because you're staring them, giving them a side eye as they try and ask a question about sativa or indica or terpenes or whatever. So what's happening here at Best in Grass, the attitude that Kaz was just talking about there, I think more people should, embrace these things. And, Kaz, I've got, my mom was the leader of our house. I've got 4 sisters as well. And I think, the more women that embrace cannabis too, some of the guests I've talked with on the show in terms of the healthcare and some of the specific like female conditions or issues that cannabis can help with, more of them in this party too, the better. And I just think in general we want to be welcoming and stuff like that. So go to bestingrass.io, listener, and you can find out where what products are involved in these judging kits. And Kaz, is there like a store locator for them to find at the website too, to see which dispensary has a kit that's close to them?
Absolutely. There's a full map with a nice little locator, all the addresses, and then everything is on bestingrass.io. And if anybody has any questions, we are ready and willing, able to help. If they want to email us at info at bestingrass.io, or just shoot us a DM if they're on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is bestingrass.io as well. And yeah, we're going to be dropping more information about the categories, the pricing, everything in between. And then we just highly, highly encourage everybody to go out there, especially if you want flower or concentrates. Those kits typically go very quickly. So be ready to potentially wait in line at the opening of each dispensary. I think most dispensaries are opening up at 10 a.m. this Saturday. So it'll be a good time to go, mix, mingle, meet some new friends. We've seen a ton of judges who have been like, oh, I met this random person in line, getting a judge kit before. And now we're friends and we talk about judging together. And it's really cool to see. So yes, everything is happening Saturday, August 10th, and we're very excited to see what the Illinois people have to say.
I love it. Mark Kazinec, co-founder, co-owner, and chief operating officer of Best in Grass. Thank you so much for jumping on and talking a little about these judging kits. And listener, head to that website, head to the Instagram handle, find out which dispensary closest to you has one of these kits, and get ready to head out on Saturday and grab one and judge for yourself. Take part in some of this fun homework that I'm looking forward to, certainly, and check out some of the best in grass that Illinois has to offer. Mark, Kaz, thanks a lot, man, for jumping on today.
Of course, Don. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to see what it comes.
And there you have it, listener. One more time, I want to thank my guest, Mark Kazinec of Best in Grass. Head to bestingrass.io to find out where the dispensary nearest you that carries some of these judging kits are. And whether you're into edibles, flower, concentrates, beverages, gummies, whatever you're liking, you can get a judging kit for it and be a judge. Let everybody know which of these products are the best out there. Let's together form a ranking system and form an idea of a pecking order of who's making the best stuff. And let's get that word out there so that everybody knows, what's worth the price, what's worth the effort of going out to get. Is this stuff really better than what I can grow at home? The answer for me in that case is always going to be yes, but maybe that's not it for you. It's worth trying these things out. It is worth exploring these things, and the work that Mark is doing to get these cannabis competitions out there, this Best in Grass idea, I think it's fantastic, and I think we should all take part. Before I let you go, Mark and I were talking about the Olympics. I brought those up at the beginning of this episode, and Snoop Dogg, I mentioned him in relation to the Olympic torch, but there's an article here that Snoop is bringing his signature style to Europe in his latest cannabis venture. So Snoop has been in Paris for the Olympics. He was watching the gymnastics matches with Simone Biles. He carried the torch in its final leg to Paris. And I guess I missed this, but I guess he provided some commentary alongside Kevin Hart. After he's done at the Olympics, which he may already be done, Snoop is going to Amsterdam, where a sister location of his Los Angeles dispensary is opening. I guess the official opening was August 1st, and this is from an article published on greenstate.com. I have linked it below. Snoop's quoted here in the article saying, quote, "Amsterdam has always embraced cannabis, and so have I." This is from a press release from Snoop. He goes on, "It's only right that I bring SWED Global, SWED, to this iconic city that understands the joy of great cannabis and a good time," end quote. The gangster rapper turned worldwide uncle brings that iconic Snoop style with blue paisley ceilings and a West Side symbol neon sign to the Venice of the North. Snoop Dogg will handpick exclusive strains, artisanal edibles, and luxury accessories on the menu. The mission is to gift Amsterdam a small drop of that California weed style. SWED is located among the hustle and bustle of the Marnixstraat, close to the nightlife and worthy attractions. The two-floor store and lounge offer a place to rest weary feet after a day of sightseeing or visiting Californians to feel at home. Obviously, if you're in Amsterdam, the feet shouldn't be weary because you should be on a bike. That's what everybody seems to be doing around there. But I totally agree with this business move. I mean, Snoop has been everywhere the last few years. I love this article calling him a worldwide uncle. That is totally how it feels. Maybe, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but to me, it does seem like Snoop is like that cool uncle. And I believe his brand is just that. And it seems like a lot of the world agrees with that stance. Very exciting stuff. As the article ends, Snoop Dogg is a longtime entrepreneur and seasoned businessman. No stranger to the cannabis industry, obviously. The globally recognized artist has launched flower lines, edibles, collaborations, and tongue-in-cheek stoner specials with Jack in the Box. Hey, I didn't know that. That sounds pretty sweet. I know that they're going to open some locations. Jack in the Box is in Illinois, I guess. Boy, I hope they bring those Snoop Dogg specials with them, because that would actually get me there. Anyway, short article from greenstate.com there, published by Kara Wheatstock at the end of July. Again, I've linked it below. By all means, check it out. And one more here for you. This one is a more educated note. There is another study, and this is pubmed.ncbi. It's the National Library of Medicine, and this is a study that shows cannabinoids in treating Parkinson's disease symptoms, a systematic review of clinical studies. This was published last year in May, and they cite all the articles that they went through. They cite the different studies. They show the background, the methods, the results of tests, but I'm just going to share with you the conclusion here. Cannabinoids have been shown to safely offer important potential in treating motor symptoms in PD, Parkinson's disease, and some non-motor symptoms. More large-scale randomized control trials for specific forms of cannabinoid treatments are required to determine their overall efficacy. And in the results portion of this, they specifically note CBD was capable of consistently improving motor symptoms more than a placebo. They said all treatments improved various non-motor symptoms, particularly with cannabis improving pain intensity and CBD improving psychiatric symptoms in a dose-dependent manner. Adverse effects, the negative ones, were usually minor, and in the case of CBD, rare, in parentheses at the end, except at very high doses. That's the end of the sentence there and the end of the results and conclusion. So I just thought that was worth bringing to your attention. We hear a lot of things about CBD helping people with seizures and some different, ailments. I thought it was noteworthy that Parkinson's disease sufferers, those also could be helped with some of their symptoms by CBD and maybe other potential cannabinoids. Just another notch in the belt of these diseases, these disorders, these negative quality of life symptoms here that cannabis might be able to help alleviate. I thought that was a big deal and wanted to bring that to your attention. I've linked that below as well. But for now, that's all I've got for you. Big thanks again to Mark Kazinec. Best in Grass Cannabis Competition launching this weekend. We all have 2 months to judge, and then there's that party at the end of October, Red Carpet Affair. Really looking forward to seeing which products come out on top this time. Of course, thanks to Jason Brown of Illinois News Joint. Get your tickets for that Enliven Edibles popcorn launch party set for Saturday, August 10th. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Be sure to leave a rating or a review on whichever platform you use to listen to this. Follow the show at C-Man Podcast on X, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. And become a subscriber through the Patreon page. Click the Support the Show link down in the description notes, and you'll get a big thank you email from me. I can't thank you enough for supporting the show. And send me a text. Any products you think were worth it. If you've tried these Canna Indica Galactic Grape Gummies, if you've tried this Dynavap Hyperdyne, if you've tried any of the products or the cannabis items that I've talked about, let me know what you thought about them. Let me know what you thought about any topics you agreed or disagreed with down in the description notes. Just click the Text Cannabis Man link and let me know what you thought. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week on the Cannabis Man Podcast. Cannabis Man is 100% originally crafted by myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music written and composed by Yusu Kim, aka Goodson.